This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, compulsively punchable.
He's the kind of guy who you'd probably just punch on the arm really hard if you ever met him.
Worshipped by feminists.
He pokes fun at feminism and women, just joking around, his whole sandwich making thing.
Mildly inspiring.
Yes, I recommend the Ben Settle Show, and anybody who isn't on it, that's their own loss.
Somewhat authentic.
Ben is a very distinct personality. There's no fluff. I can't stand fluff.
Syrupy sweet.
Tells it like it is, and sometimes may not be the most polite manner, shall we say.
Kind of useful.
So I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and masterminds, and I've learned more from Ben Settle's podcast than from any of that.
Semi-intelligent.
Ben sounds like a crazy guy at times, but he's one of the smartest individuals in marketing I've ever met.
Mostly forgettable.
He's always in the forefront of my mind.
The BenSettle.com podcast begins now.
This is Ben Settle, the BenSettle.com podcast, coming at you from the beautiful, absolutely beautiful Pacific Ocean in a small Oregon town. It sounds like producer Jonathan and I are in the same room, but we could not be on more opposite sides of the world. He is in Cocoa Beach, right? Is that where you're at, Jonathan? Cocoa Beach, Florida?
I can be. No, I'm in Orlando, right by Mickey Mouse Land.
Okay, so we're about as far away as you can get from each other. But it sounds like we're in the same studio because of the magic of what Jonathan's audio team does. And, I don't even know how they do half the stuff they do, but props to them. I don't think Jonathan, I don't give your team enough props, and I just want to give them some props.
I'm giving
the audio team
Quit
some
that
props.
shit. Then they're going to start raising their prices. Get out of here.
I'm going to give them props, and that just gets passed on to me. So it's not like that's like what do you care? It's like, so last week I talked a little bit about Jim Camp. I talk about Jim Camp a lot. The late Jim Camp, just a brilliant guy. I cannot recommend his book, No, the Only Negotiation System You'll Ever Need for Work and Home enough. He has another book, too, that I haven't read that he wrote like 5 years earlier than that one. But the one I just mentioned, I'm doing my 10 reads of it. People keep trying to get me to read other books. I keep telling them to go screw themselves. That's not how I operate. I find a book, I want to read it 10 times. I don't read other books, especially the ones sent to me unsolicited. I just don't do it. So whatever. That said, so let's talk more about some Jim Camps. Let's talk about why getting a no, and this is one of the email players rules from last week, why getting a no is actually the best way to get a yes. Like if you really want people to tell you yes, try to get them to tell you no. It is paradoxical. I get it. It's very principle based. It's not tactic based. It's completely goes against what most people do or what most people have the balls to even try to do, but it works, and it's actually a lot easier and more respectful to your client or your list, whoever you're selling to, your lead. And I'm not going to go over everything with this. This is not going to be an exhaustive list of stuff, Jonathan. I know there are people who think I owe them something for free out there, but I don't owe them a damn thing. Okay. Let's get something straight here, Jonathan. I'm not asking people to listen to this show. Okay. I'm giving them an option for learning something. When people sit there and try to get up on me and try to tell me how to run my own show, oh, you need to be like so-and-so's show or that person's show. I say, if you like that person, why don't you just go listen to them? You're not going to I don't listen to other podcasts. I don't want to be influenced by them. I'm sure as hell not going to come out of the gate, sit there trying to give you $10,000 worth of advice in a 20-minute show. It doesn't work that way. All right. So, that, I don't know, maybe somebody needed to hear that, Jonathan. I can't say that I get this a lot. So maybe I'm just kind of drama kinging here a little bit for the sake of it. But that's what we do on the BenSettle.com podcast. We use a little drama. We have a little bit of fun. We're very miserable people. We don't like you. Okay. Not you as a person. I got to say something. It's not like we don't like them as the person listening. You as a person are fine. We don't like people in general. And as a person, you're part of the people. And as part of the people, I have to tell you, at first glance, I'd tell you no. Okay, I'm telling you no. I don't like you. Now, it doesn't mean that can't change, and it will. People who, for example, that I engage with and everything, and a lot of them started off as people I didn't like either, Jonathan. And they worked their way in, and they found out that the Grinch's heart did grow a couple sizes just for them, as painful as it was for me. And now all is good. So I don't know if that first 4 minutes of the show added anything to your life. Probably not. But let's move on to some Jim Campism. So I was talking about no and all that. I mean, that's his whole thing is no. Now, he's got other parts of his system and all that, like building vision. And he's got this really cool concept called strip lining. In fact, let me tell you a story about this, Jonathan. I think you'll find this very interesting.
Okay.
So in his book, and this is an example of trying to get people to tell you no. Now, this is a fictional example from a movie. I forget the name of the movie, Legal something. I couldn't even tell you like who stars in it, and he says it's not really that good of a movie either. It's just that this one scene is very telling. So there's this murder trial where this lady is accused of murder. And her she has the gun, they had the weapon, they had the motive, her fingerprints all over everything. The media and everybody has her pegged as guilty. Everyone in that courtroom is just assuming she's guilty. Like it's a mere formality that they're even going through the process. And as far as the media, everyone's saying it's like the jury's already going in there thinking she's guilty, and so be it. So the lawyer, and I don't know if he was a younger lawyer or what his game was. He went up there and tried to do the usual thing. Well, my client's innocent, and he's just watching. He's watching the eyes glaze over of the jury because they all think he's full of crap. We know this lady's guilty. How could she not be guilty? And so he's looking at that. He's looking at the jury. He's noticing how they're responding. And then he stops. He says, look, you know what? I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's so much evidence against my client that even I think she's guilty. I mean, she is as guilty as, and there's no way she could not be guilty. The prosecution has the murder weapon, the motive, her fingerprints are all over. There's eyewitnesses saying she did it. I mean, there's no way that she's not guilty. Now imagine, Jonathan, you're on trial and your own lawyer's saying this about you, right? There's no way. And he goes right up to one of the jurors, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, don't you think you guys should just make your decision now? I mean, why even go through all this? And the juror looks at him and she goes, well, doesn't she get a fair trial? He was, and that start. And so what that does, it brought everybody, if you think about it, it brought everybody on an honest level playing field intellectually. See, now suddenly she's going to be treated at least fairly. Before, she wasn't going to be treated fairly. Everybody assumed she was guilty. Now it's like, well, you've just taken all the power away from the prosecutor at this point. What can their opening statement even be at that point, right? Now, I don't know what happened after that because I haven't seen the movie, but that was described in his book, and he called that negative strip lining, and I thought that was brilliant. And that's an example of trying to get someone to tell you no, puts them in an intellectually honest mindset so that they can actually tell you yes, so that they can hear you out. So you're not coming at them as a biased person. You're actually coming out there saying, look, will you just tell me no? And we can both move on with our lives. I don't need to spend time with you. I don't need to waste your time if you have no interest in this. I told this story last week about when Jim Camp was going door to door selling with water filters. I'm going to retell this story for any new listeners because it's very important. Now, he was a commercial air pilot. This was after this was after he got out of, he was a Vietnam combat pilot too. So it was probably after that. And he was selling water filters door to door to help, support his family still. I guess he just didn't make enough as a pilot. This was probably back in the 70s or something, I'm guessing. And, so he's going door to door and he's getting the door slammed at his face. He's doing all the Zig Ziglar stuff, all the, the fancy closes and the script. And he knew all the objections if somebody gave him an objection, and it just got the door slammed in his face. And finally, he threw the script out. He says, this is not working. And he knew that the people in that neighborhood had really terrible water quality. So it's not like they couldn't be good prospects. Knocked on the door and he would say, look, I don't know if I can help you or not, but you just tell me how the water here treats your hair. Is your hair soft or is it brittle? Suddenly people are insisting he come inside instead of being like the salesman and everything. Did he sell everybody? No, but he made a lot of sales. He started making more money as a part-time salesperson, doing that by just getting in their world and being honest with them and transparent and literally giving them the option to tell him no. He talks about giving people the right to veto, Jonathan, and that you have to give people the right to veto. So and an extreme example would be like rape. If somebody rapes a girl, he has taken away her right to veto, to say no. That is the worst crime you can possibly make in that sense. A crime in the selling sense is not giving people the right to say no when you're trying to sell to them. Thus, in my emails, in my sales letters, or if I'm even doing some kind of face-to-face or on the phone persuasion activity, or maybe if I was talking to a girl that I wanted to date or whatever, I'm giving them the absolute option to tell me no. I almost want them to. I'll even say, look, I have no idea if you're even interested in this. I really don't. If you're not, well, just tell me. Believe me, you'll be doing us both a favor. And it's not a trick. It's not a tactic. I really want them to tell me no as soon as possible so I can move on to the next person who is more interested. And this is a very principle-based mindset. It's not tactical. See, if you go in with this tactical, it's going to backfire on you because people can smell it on you. They'll smell the horse crap on you. But when you do this kind of thing, you get people to make a decision to buy. So for example, here's another of Jim Camp example. And I told about this last week, but I'm going to retell it, Jonathan, because I'm kind like that. All right. For the newer people. Because I do have a heart. It's not a big heart, but it's there somewhere in the depths of my soul. There's a heart somewhere. when Jim discovered this, and this is all in his book. No, I'm not. This isn't anything like that you're gonna have to search hard for. When he was doing this, he went back to all the people that had told him no originally, and the first thing he said was, I did you a disservice. Please tell me no at any time here, and I'll get out of your hair. This isn't, I understand your time is valuable, but. And then he would go into what he was telling people. Look, what I really want to know is just how is your water treating your hair? And he found out there were a lot of people that were just suddenly they would slam the door on him before who are now interested. They were interested in hearing. He wasn't bullcrapping them. He was getting in their world, talking about their problems, their hair and all that. And so be it. And their water quality, which is very important. It's the opposite of what most people were doing. What he was doing originally was just pitching benefits. Just door to door. I got something to sell and check out this water filter and, reverse osmosis or whatever he was doing. And, that's just, okay, yeah, who cares? But when you go in there and you say, how's the water treating your hair here? And this is a problem for you. You can't get, especially for like girls and all that who put all that time into their hair. They were very interested in what he had to say. So it gets people to make a decision, yes or no. And that's what I wanted to say about that. If you're dealing with clients, I know there's a lot of freelancers listening to this show, Jonathan. Let's say you're dealing with a client and this is like a 2 or 3 week process and just back and forth and they won't make a decision. Here's what you say. It's very simple. You say, look, I want to work for you. Okay. But I don't want to spend a lot more time on this if you're not interested. So if you're not interested in hiring me, will you please just tell me no? And I'll go move on to some clients that are interested in hiring me. And there's no problem and there'll be no hard feelings. Everything will be fine. Now, if you're a client, Jonathan, aren't you going to respond to that more than like the latest tricks and people trying to posture and trying to act like they have more power than they don't and all that? Let's say you were hiring a copywriter and someone came up and you just, for whatever, you got busy and you couldn't keep, you and Cupcake just lost contact with them and whatever. You weren't playing any games or anything. And they came up to you and they said that. Say, look, Jonathan, they said, Jonathan and Cupcake, I respect you guys. I would love to work on this project with you, but I can't tell if you really want to hire me or not, or your interest level. So would you just tell me no? And I'll just leave you alone and I'll be happy to move on. How would you respond to that, Jonathan? Would that be something that you would embrace? Or would you tell them to get out of your face?
Nah, it takes the pressure off. So you don't feel so bad about saying no. And then it gets you to think, do I want this or do I not? And you feel like you have more options than like being defensive.
Yeah, and exactly. And you're not putting them off trying to feel bad. Because let's say you don't want to hire them. Well, they've just said, you can just say, okay, yeah, you're right. We're not really that interested in hiring you. And in fact, you might even, if they do it well enough, I'm guessing, and I know I would do this, you might even be willing to refer them to another client. Say, look, but I know someone else who might be able to use your help. All from trying to get a no. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I get it. The first to admit, people, when I got into direct marketing and all this, I wasn't taught this stuff at all. I was taught pitch benefits and all this stuff. And, here's how to play the client game. It's all of it's horse crap. I wish somebody had taught me this. Jonathan, I am giving away knowledge here that can make people a hell of a lot of sales and make their life a hell of a lot easier. And it's free. So for anyone who's complaining that I don't get enough value, they can go walk off. They can go walk off the plank for all I care. It doesn't matter. So let's take this on another dimension of this. Let's take this to the relationship game. Jonathan, I don't really talk about this stuff very much on the show.
Not at all.
Because people don't seem to be very interested in it for some reason. I guess everybody's happily married and all that. But this is for the 2 or 3 people out there that aren't. Okay. Real life story. So last year I dated this girl for a couple months. And now this was sort of like a reverse psychology thing. But I had to get her to make a decision. Yes, she's still hung up on like her ex who lived in another country and all that. Right? Like she didn't really want to be hung, like she wanted to be with me and all this, but I had to get her to tell me no. Like that was my goal. And it wasn't to get a yes from her either, because I still would have I did this for her benefit actually. I wanted her to realize that she needed to be back there with her ex. The guy loved her. Loves her. Just really wanted her back. He screwed up and it's not like he cheated or anything. He just, he kind of took her for granted and all that, which happens. And I said, you got to go back to this guy. You have got to go back you shouldn't even be hanging with me. This is like disrespectful to that guy. You need to go back, because I kind of, I just knew what was going to happen. And she's like, no, it just makes me want to be with you more. And so it kind of backfired on me on that. But at the end of the day, Jonathan, at the end of the day, she came to her senses and she said, Ben, I'm going to go back with this guy. And I thank you. Thank you. I got to thank you for it, Jonathan. Now, how many girls thank a guy for trying to get rid of him?
Only you, buddy. Only you.
It doesn't take much. And you can apply this to any kind of relationship. Now, let's say you want a girl. Okay, let's say there's a girl that you want to pursue. Let's say there's someone I want to pursue. And I can't really tell where she's at. My goal is to try to next her as soon as possible. See, there's so many out there to choose from. You don't need any one of them. This is just the math is on my side. The math is on your side, listener. Okay, if you have a valuable person, you should try to get people to tell you no, so you can move on to the next yes. Now, this is old school selling advice here. You want to get the no, and you get the no by saying, look, and I talked about this a little bit last week, but it bears repeating. You simply say this. You say, look, I'm not sensing a whole lot of interest from you. Okay. So I think that I'm just going to move on to the next thing. I wish you the best and good luck. Now you're basically saying no without saying no. You're not telling them to go piss off or anything. But you're giving them an option. You really should want her to say, yeah, you're right. I'm really not, you know what? I don't want to waste any more time. That's what you want. You've got to get people on that intellectually honest level playing field where they're not afraid to say what they really think. And that's what getting that no will do. And in a lot of cases, you might find that they say yes. Because it's so different and intriguing, if nothing else, because nobody else is doing. Everybody else spitting game at her all the time, and you're the one saying, "Look, I don't know. I'm not feeling it with you, so I'm not that interested either. I'm moving on to something else. I wish you the best." And you can't have any malice. It's got to be real. You got to mean it, and you would be amazed what good things happen. And then finally, this just saves you time doing this. Getting the no as fast as you can. It will save you so much time and energy. And we've already covered some examples of this, like with the clients and all that. You really want it just saves you time. If there's something you want to sell or something you want to buy or there's a person you want to pursue, the faster you can get them to say yes or no, the better. And the best way to make them make a decision is to try to get them to say no. In my humble but accurate opinion, this works in everything. And if you want to know more ways to get to that no, just do things like being super transparent. We'll do that for you. Jonathan, on my main website, I purposely have it, and I've talked about this before, where you can't opt into my list unless you click a box. It won't let you. Aweber won't let you do it unless you click a box saying, I agree to get daily promotional emails from Ben Settle. I am trying to get people to say no at that point. And someone who says yes is a much better lead than they would be otherwise. Much less likely to cause me headaches, much less likely to cause me problems. I mean, some of them slip through, granted, but way less than it used to be. I want them to opt out. Every time I send an email out, I want people, if they're not interested, I would rather them opt out. And I don't have to pay for the extra names, and I don't have to worry about the bandwidth out there. So again, getting a no is the best way to get a yes. And Jonathan, I think I've already said more than I know on the subject. We will revisit this again someday. But next week, I'm going to talk about a real life story that I call tripping the system. That should help anybody who's, if you're being indoctrinated with a lot of the guru stuff out there and you're wondering why it doesn't work and you want to get your life back on track so people take you seriously, I think it'll help you quite a bit.
Nice tease. I'm kind of excited about that. All right, so that's a wrap for another BenSettle.com podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Ben, for sharing your insights with us.
You've been listening to the BenSettle.com podcast. To get your hands on a free issue of Ben Settle's prestigious $97 per month email player's newsletter, simply go to www.bensettle.com.
This is the podcastfactory.com.